This time it was picked up by Jinair and almost Root was able to get the win with it. Urgot going to be banned here on the blue side. From Jinair, they're aiming for a different kind of first pick as the Akali is looming as a potential ban here for the Afreeca Freecs. And it's going to be taken away.
A lot of side laners banned away here. A lot of the 1-3-1 picks that we're so used to. It means Cassio is not going to make it through either. Sorry, didn't catch that one on the right side there. So Cassio gone, a lot of flex laners gone, a lot open though. Rakan priority way down. Galio some teams like, other teams don't like. Is there a first pick that Jinair are demanding? Right now the answer seems to be no. Be very surprising to see a first pick Gragas, but it seems like they're not worried about Afreeca Freecs going for just a min-max of tier list picks, and maybe they'll be surprised by a power duo from Afreeca.
Well, Kai'Sa and the Jarvan are locked in.
Korean casters, I think, exclaimed in a very amusing way.
They
It was
did. It's like, am I excited or am I just sad? I don't know. But, I mean, Dread could be playing it this time. We don't know that that's guaranteed on the bottom side of the map, but I feel like with a Kai'Sa, it is a very different story down there.
How about with a Kalista in the bot lane?
All right.
This would be Root saying, I'm going for the laning phase. They're going to go for the old favorite. We saw this in our first series. Kalista Thresh can deal with any Jarvan lane with ease, you'd imagine, and you can, in fact, flay him out of his EQ as well.
Yeah, and you can just hop over the Cataclysm wall, so you're not worried about that one in any way. Okay, will Yukao just be locking away the Vladimir? And it is going to be picked up. Okay, that could be his champion, could be going to Keen on the top side of the map. Noguri style, aiming could also be playing it if Keen decides that he wants to run the Kai'Sa top lane. Who knows what's going to happen, Papa Smithy. There are certainly a bunch of different options. The Rai is going to be the first ban here on the red side as the Afreeca Freecs just targeting the solo lanes, as they're the ones that seem to be available here for Jinair.
3 mid-range threats on the side of Jinair, so Vladimir win condition for the late game that, to be honest, Dumb1 Gaming weren't actually able to deliver on in our first series. Still, you understand and like the Vladimir first round here.
Yep.
Yukal's played it in professional play, and Keen, of course, can play it as well, so we'll wait and see who's going to be assigned that one.
Aurelia going to be banned away, even though she has been smashed in the face with the Nerf bat a little bit too hard on this patch.
I think on 9.2, she's still very good in certain matchups, especially against mages in the mid lane, where the extra burst on the ultimate is still pretty relevant. I think a lot of the top lane matchups that she could survive are now a lot harder. So she's in kind of a weird spot.
Whoa, okay.
Right.
We got
Finally.
an insta-lock Kane. There we go.
I'm excited. We get our first Kane.
All right, and I was thinking
it's the first time ever in LCK, as it's confirmed here.
Oh my goodness, all right. There we go.
There's only one left. It is Garen.
I thought that it was only Garen.
No, I thought that too, but I wasn't sure on the Kane.
Uh-huh.
It's been around, but not actually in LCK, only in Challengers Korea. Here we go. First Kane is probably going to be Dread. We don't know for sure. On the side of Jinair, they have a Scion. Will they have another damage dealer, though? And where is the Gragas going for a first pick champion?
Well, could definitely be the jungle. That's where your mind first goes, and now that it's not going to be support, then it's limiting its options. Up against Keen is an interesting one, as the Zoe's being considered, and certainly one of the power picks for Grace. So as far as standard compositions are concerned, this is a pretty beautiful one coming out of Jinair.
Whereas Afreeca Freecs, they've got Kai'Sa, Jarvan as their, at the moment, considered bot lane. Waiting to find out where Vladimir is going. Final pick here from the comp. Again, you're going for a pile-in comp, so any more divers is fine, and this will be Vladimir top lane, Lissandra mid lane, almost certainly.
How many things fit inside the Cataclysm is the question. You could get a Frozen Tomb in there, a Hemoplague in there. You could even have the Kane dashing around and getting things done, but aiming's going to just have such a rough time in this laning phase on the Kai'Sa. With the Jarvan standing next to him, it was a decent lane. Last time around, the standards were offering a lot, but oh man. That's
Can really be turned around, the Jarvan here, because Flay and Hawk interact so well with Jarvan's gap close, either aggressively or defensively. So yeah, it seems like it's going to be a really tricky laning phase, but the Jarvan passed the test in game number 1.
Yeah, and we saw what it was supposed to do, and some of the EQ flashes that Spirit were getting off looked absolutely fantastic, and we were able to lock things down in the mid-game. But the mid-game is where the Afreeca Freecs are sort of priced into, because as far as playing front-to-back League of Legends is concerned, Jin Air just have so many different options as the game moves forward. Yes, Gragas falls off in the late game, but you've got a Scion to frontline, you've got Kalista, and we saw what Ghost was capable of in our first series tonight.
They got a frontline, and they have 2-item Kalista and 2-item Zoe. So it's very much about that timing, I think, where things look really good for the side of Jin Air. But the thing is, Afreeca have these wild cards that can warp games on their own, and Kayn is one of those champions who has the most unique gank paths with his Shadow Step to be able to be Shaco-esque in popping over walls. And if you just start assassinating people, get a Shadow Assassin on the Riff, or wait and see which form is taken, if you can bridge the Kayn in the early game to Vladimir late game, maybe there is no sweet center for the side of Jin Air to win those front-to-back team fights.
Well, let's find out right now. That was a dude saying keen fighting, I think, in the end there.
Here's Kayn. First time ever in the LCK. Played in Korea, but Challengers doesn't count in that stat. It's been played quite a lot recently. Ryan, or Ryan, depending on what you call him, the jungler of formerly GC Busan in the Kesper Cup, now VSG, the top team in Challengers, has played that Kayn already. Big pick for Ning, and a lot of people are copying Ning's approach to the champion after it's been always around. and Haru were our resident solo queue Kayn players, but never played it in professional play. Big takeaway is Q-Max Kayn, so not just a couple of points in Q into, say, W-Max, which is more normal. Ning loves just pure Q-Max. It means that he is the fastest champion at just deleting and hoovering every Raptor camp. And if you can go Raptor to Raptor, you feel stoked as a Kayn.
You don't feel stoked if you're a Scion with 0 items, though, so I'm not entirely sure what Linderung's plan is here.
What's the Inting Scion starting item?
I guess maybe you don't even need items if you're Inting Scion.
Well, the fake leash is not going to work when he realized he didn't buy his Corrupting Potion.
Yeah. And now he's just going to enter lane.
I guess he's just going to buy an item. So he's buying... It is actually him power farming, by the way.
All right, okay.
So he's going to aggro both camps. Let's watch for the leashes here. So he's going to be about a big first purchase. So this is actually a calculated strategy. It is Inting Scion, but in a different way.
Yep.
Takes it down. This is something Scion has always been able to do. Takes down 2 camps. Happy. Oh!
That's awesome.
That just sucked, man.
Yeah, dude. Hey, now he gets an extra potion in lane. And no one gets the red buff. The blue buff. Okay, that's unfortunate. And it's a blue side start coming in for Malrung on the opposite side of the map. So doing their very best to deny Dread a camp. And should be able to do so here, as the Scion is the one that took the blue. And in fact has it. Because he, I guess, died after... I don't know how he manages to keep the blue buff there, but whatever.
Because after you die, you keep the buffs. That was changed
yes, that was
many moons ago. We haven't really had the old die to a camp to min-max your jungle speed in a long time.
Yeah,
there was a time where Evelyn could only actually jungle with a revive way back when in pre-season 1.
And because it's only if you die to the camp, we haven't seen it basically at all. As Hook gonna land on the bottom side of the map, aiming, offering some damage back here, but fight going to be won here, as you can see, by Jin Air, but sharing out a lot of this damage is the Pierce going to land on aiming, and he says, I don't really want to be in this lane. And you know what, aiming? Understandable.
So I actually really like what Jin Air did. The plan here was, okay, Kayn's going to come and steal some camps topside. Let's have Scion solo down blue and Gromp, steal the enemy blue, and then find a way to actually 3-buff a Kayn, which is something that sounds impossible, right?
Yeah.
But they actually, almost bloodlessly, because Kayn didn't get a deep ward down, almost pulled it off. And in the end, it's only a Gromp, but very creative start here. Gets them more jungle camps. It's actually a pretty fun thing to look back on and appreciate. But because the secondary camp doesn't come in, you don't get the level 2. It's a little bit more awkward, and it does also stop the gold timing from the Scion back to be quite as fruitful.
Well, as you can see, turret plate goes down on the bottom side. We know that this lane was going to be real rough for the Afreeca Freecs, but losing a turret plate at 4 minutes into the game, some really scary stuff. Red going back to base. Skirmisher Chamber has been picked up, and he needs to find a way to salvage some of these lanes on this map right now. even Grace having a decent time, who's taken the Unsealed Spellbook on the Zoe.
If you look at the lanes he has to interact with, top lane, it's Vladimir, so good luck with that.
Yep.
The mid lane and bot lane are your opportunities as the Kayn. Would love to kill Gragas in the enemy jungle. It's a possibility. You can get on top of his model with the Q when he fails a body slam trying to get out. Very possible to get the kill there.
Yeah, and we should talk a little bit about the changes to Kayn as well.
Yep.
A lot changed with his transformation. Now, all of the kills that you get stack everything up at the same time, and it's more based on the type of champions that you kill. Ranged, of course, heading towards Shadow Assassin, and melee champions heading towards the Rast form.
Here he comes.
As he is just going to Shadow Step his way through. Linderung very, very low as Blades reach. Doesn't find the target. Good double knock-up now as Keen does, of course, have Sanguine Pull. But not going to be able to find any kills here or a flash or anything.
Definitely the hardest thing. Oh, Yukal shorted it.
Yeah, does have Ring of Frost available, but has to actually flash to get out of the way as Grace throwing these paddle stars in. Dread shows up. And Vladimir is here on the inside track. Shadow Step will get Dread over this wall. As Grace uses a counterfeit flash to get himself further forward. Thank you very much for that one, Yukal, he says.
But Malrang gets another objective in the early game, and I think Jinair should be praised for having a lot of ideas against a Kayn. They had the 2-camp start from the Sion top side to deny there from being a corresponding blue buff. They're finding creative ways to pick up Scuttle Crabs. And in general, there's no farm lead for a Kayn over a Gragas. That lets you know that the Gragas team has done something smart. It's not about the Kayn not being able to farm faster.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Red Pot sitting in Kayn's back pocket as he's gone Kleptomancy on the Vladimir, understanding that he can just straight up win this lane against the Sion. Some understandable things there. See when this Kayn can actually affect this map, though. Has a Gromp available for himself, as Nova just takes free damage as the standard flies down, but this is a very different laning experience to what the Afreeca Freecs had the last time around.
It's a very different opportunity open to ranged top laners against tanks. In previous seasons, only the biggest abusers, the non-committal Q users of Ezreal and GP took Klepto, but ever since it became 2 procs, range versus melee, almost every range champion can find a way to abuse those matchups. That's why Jace takes it, that's why Vlad takes it, so has opened up the Keystone, which was one of Riot's central things they wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, Aiming in Spirit will lose another turret plate. Still doing a decent job farming things out, and that RNG from the Acathian Rain was certainly good.
And moments like this is what I meant with, because one of my thoughts in Game 1 was, why didn't Jinair attack the Jarvan lane? It's because of this. It's not about, well, it's really hard to kill Ezreal, Jarvan, they're slippery. It's, well, they don't have a lot of wave clear, so just take their turret, bully them around. You should be bullying the Jarvan who's only a flag with Airy proc every 8 to 10 seconds. He's not really any other type of lane presence. So rotating through bot lane, it may not kill Kai'Sa Jarvan or previously Ezreal Jarvan, but it'll get you turret plates, and you have to make the Jarvan accountable for what is a pretty woeful laning phase outside of E.
Well, speaking of things that are woeful, level 6 has been hit for the bottom lane of Jinair, but not actually found for Afreeca Freecs yet. Hook goes wide. Aiming in Spirit, fighting with a level disadvantage. It is going to be blue buff secured by Dread in the end.
Back away from this case. Jinair continue to push. It's going to be pretty much perma-push bot side, and okay, top side now. Not going to interact with that. Gragas is a camp and a half ahead of the Kayn.
Just really having his way with him in this early game, but it was all engineered to be this way. That blue buff denied very early on, and Dread and Yukal are looking for a dive on the top side of the map, meaning this bottom lane is going to be in a really rough spot. Ward is going to spot out the Gragas moving on in. Predator going to be popped. And that's just going to guarantee even more turret plates. Afreeca Freecs, what do they actually do to get back in here as Malrang finds a good barrel under aiming as well?
They position for the corresponding turret dive, but kill pressure onto Sion, it's a maybe 50-50, and if the gank comes off, Sion is really slippery for a big beefy boy, and they just steal a blue and go back to mid lane. So the answer's not much, actually, Atlas. They aren't able to get any leads anywhere. Not even their jungle can get a lead over the enemy jungle. So far, I'm pretty much in love with how Jinair have played out this game. Didn't expect that after level 1, was certainly weird and wonderful, but playing to your item choice and playing to no items. There you go, huh?
Yeah, it's real smooth. Real smooth. There's Linderung up here on the top side, still just getting the decimating smashes when he needs them. Kayn continuing to try and farm things out. the best of his ability.
So, what does this mean for Jin Air? Let's talk back again to how we saw Jin Air winning this game if they were to. It's 2-item Kalista, 1+ item Zoe, as early as possible, fighting front to back. Hard for Afreeca Freecs to do much. We already know the Kalista's getting there faster than expected with all the turret plates that she's cashed in. She's a lot of the 900 gold lead with a 20 CS advantage as well. So right now, game plan is actually coming together way better than expected for the side of Jin.
Well, they're going to dive on top of the Kalista here. Does flash to get out of the way, but Killer Instinct will follow. And that is just an overstep for Root. Vision available of where Nova was, and Root had no business being up that far. And
that's a straight up mistake that you can't incorporate in this theory. Spirit gets his man, EQ and R, all available. Kalista goes down, and Grace will continue poking in the mid lane, but that's definitely not the sort of mistake you can afford to make after a good start like that.
UCal does now have the Claw on cooldown, but that looks pretty damn aggressive from this Lissandra. UCal, of course, very, very comfortable on that champion. As EQ comes in after the flay, meaning that Spirit does get out relatively easily.
That's here as well.
And Reaping Slash to get himself over that wall.
Arang would prefer not to face check here, but does have his flash.
No ward in this brush, remember.
Malrang was actually ultra safety. He knows it's not easy for him to read into. Here's the game.
Yeah, another flash play to come down here as Aiming has to use his flash. Spirit down into his stopwatch as Dread comes on forward, wants to find Root, and does still have that Umbral Trespass, jumps into the Kalista and wants to clean it up. Oh my god, Keen! The Hemo Plague is glorious. Cool guys don't look at explosions as Linderung gets a massive CC, but you know what he gets for it? The present is death. 2 kills going over to the Vladimir.
And they actually ace the team of Jin Air. They take them all down in this early in the game. The crowd only now realizes it. UCal can push in mid lane, and that is one of the biggest gold swings we've seen in the 2019 meta.
That's just disgusting. 2,000 gold now, and look at all the plates that are going down. Dread's going to start up the Dragon. Bad goes to worse for Jin Air fans. 2-0-2 now for the Kane, who is kept so well in check. I know, Puppy, you were singing their praises in the early games. They've looked good in multiple games so far this season. But just every time something goes catastrophically wrong as the game crests about 10 minutes.
And I think what you take away from that is they've had great ideas. That's pre-planning. That's coming into a game. But execution with the roster they have hasn't been good enough. We're getting that transformation. It's going to be Rast, actually. Interestingly, I guess Sion, Gragas, and Thresh are pretty big front line. Let's watch the replay. They had no idea Dread was them. Malrang had a thought, but Dread comes in. Let's watch how this all plays out, and notice that Zoe gets soloed by Lissandra at the same time.
Yeah.
That's how it ended up being the ace. Rips down the Kalista. Keen gets better position than you could have imagined for a Vladimir this early. Nova ticks down. It's an ace. Not a perfect one, but a 4-for-1. Let's watch how this happened. So the arming, of course, interrupts the TP there.
And
UCal
just
kills him.
Turns around and presses all of his buttons. I guess that's what kills you. That was looking like it should have been a Zoe solo kill. Okay, fun doesn't stop here as it's a really nice land to get Root out of danger as Dread, Umbral Trespass onto Grace. Maybe not his opportune target, but that's just bought all the space for Aiming to dive on forward. Grace dies as well. It's a double for the Kane. Make that 4-0-3 over to the Afreeca Freecs jungler. This is looking like a 2-0 from what we thought was going to be a really long series.
And that's where you see the mentality is broken. You cannot skirmish again with Dread on the map after getting involvements. He's 4-0-3 now. Of course you're going to get out-skirmished by Rast. That's just how it goes.
Well, he does have the Blades Reach, and in Rast form, that is going to get yourself your health back. That's why it's going to help, and you get the knock-up from that old ability. Not going to get that extra range that I think Reaping Slash gains.
And you know
Shadow
what?
Assassin form?
We were wrong. Let's look who gets the turret first bot lane.
Yeah.
It's the beautiful Kai'Sa and Jarvan lane.
Kai'Sa, Jarvan, so Jarvan hasn't lost a lane. Jarvan Ezreal, Jarvan Kai'Sa, doesn't matter which one, just play Jarvan, guys. That's what I'm learning from this series.
And the thing is, you have Rast here, and that means you will out-skirmish. Zoe unable to do anything in this fight. She's not there in any real way and ends up going down at the end. Dread, with his Q-Max, continues to swirl around there, helicoptering from Rast. Jin Air do actually just pack up and leave bot lane. They've had enough. It's been the scene of a couple of atrocities so far in this series, and they'll get a Rift Herald after all.
Just trying not to trigger the PTSD from their experience being aced on the bottom side of the map pre-10 minutes. An understandable situation here as Dread looks to be heading towards a Black Cleaver as item number 2. I was wondering what his second item choice was going to be, but in Rust form, you're able to be a little bit tankier as, all right, I guess Point Blank is a great way to miss a Trouble Bubble.
Ning's itemization on...
All right,
it's been weird. We're going
back in. Yeah, Yukal is going to immediately self-ultimate, try and get some damage, and also bother everyone as he jumps further. Circle of Frost helped hold everyone down, and my god, the Afreeca Freecs are just having their way with Jin Air at this point. Dread diving on over, and this is the Rast experience that you expect. Actually just hopping underneath the turret. No worries there at all as Malrang goes down, makes Spirit look a little bit funny. But aiming picks up the kill in the end, and this is what happens when you're able to smack people with your wallet. It's 1-14, and this game got way out of control way too quickly. And as far as gold graphs are concerned, it went from last time being this beautiful mountainous view to this looking like a gigantic cliff.
And the sad thing is, Atlas, it'd be actually very good visual imagery. They were actually looking really good in the early game, but then they jumped off a cliff, and the cliff will be shown in this one. Everything just fell apart. They're fighting again and again, out of position. Dread just decides he's much more interested in stopping Grace from being involved. Success on that. They clean up all the exit kills, and this will be a 2-0 for the Afreeca Freecs. Over 10,000 gold lead, and yeah, unfortunately, Jin Air just broken men in front of us. It's kind of hard to watch.
It is 1-1 and 2, by the way. Highest kill participation in the game for Spirits. Jarvan, what does it mean?
1-1-12.
Sorry, 1-1-12. So
1-1 and 2 would be pretty crappy kills.
Yeah, sorry, 13 out of the 14 kills he's been a part of. Hard to have one off the 14 kills kill participation with only 3 kill involvements. But, I mean, crazy things have happened. We've watched this whole series. 9,000 gold the lead at 16 minutes. Who would have thought that this is a genius draft? Definitely not me. As our Dread has to use the Reaping Slash in order to get out and has to jump inside Malrang in order to save himself, and he's still okay.
I wasn't concerned for a second. It's Rast.
Is that our testing his limits?
Yes.
Now he's just going to stand in this wall again. He really just likes it in there.
Well, if he's a wall, I don't see Jin Air passing through.
No. And this is an Ocean Drake. They wish it was a different one, but they'll take everything on the map because it's theirs. Looking at items, double proto belts completed. Needlessly large rod done for Keen, who's done exactly what Noguri popularized in getting that Fiendish Codex and going for the scaling cooldown reduction in your runes, as you've explained multiple times, Papa Smithy, so he will be at 40% very, very quickly, if not now. Yes, 17 minutes into the game, has approximately 42. He's gone into Cosmic Insight.
Fortunately, this is one of those games that reminds me a lot of Afreeca versus Genji, and I realize Afreeca is likely to win those 2 series, but Afreeca, they went for the, all right, Spirit's playing all the bot lane carries, Morgana, Nico, Annie, and they won that series, but Genji was so out of form that, you know, it wasn't real opposition when it comes to a team that came in with practice strategies that was winning for them. It was very much beating who with the nameplates on. And it kind of feels like that again, where Jin Air Greenwings especially are demoralized at this point, so can't really intelligibly talk about the drafts here because the game is over far too early. You do worry that Afreeca will try this again against their next opponents, and Kingzone already took down the previous strategy, and you wonder if that will just be the case for Afreeca's next game. So it's really tricky to know what we're learning from this. It will be Kane's first ever win in the LCK. That's a stat we can be excited about, but otherwise, gold lead is massive, and feels like Afreeca just on the bloodlust for more kills.
And it also feels like in the early game, this Kane was very well held. And it wasn't necessarily looking like a power pick, and we know Kane as being a whole lot of trouble in the earlier stages of the game. It's not necessarily like he's a scaling pick that you're looking to try and affect things later. He needs to get those items, he needs to get the damage, otherwise he feels a little bit irrelevant. And this game, he was handed a whole lot of everything as soon as he wanted it in this game.
Let's chalk that one up to another bad Herald also. Yeah, it's dead.
All right.
It didn't get a charge. That's a lot of Heralds in a row.
Yeah. I feel like LS was gifted some really horrible Heralds on Sunday, so now it's your turn, Papa.
Where do you go from here as Jin Air? Is kind of a open discussion question, because obviously I don't have an answer to that.
Yeah. Well,
we're not sure about Root and Nova as a duo, because it's just against expectations with Kellen on the roster.
I just feel like you play Stitch. I mean, he's had one game and he played Tristana. sort of given a unorthodox pick and was a bit of a non-issue, but having some more veterancy, having some more level-headedness on this team feels like it would make some sense. Root's still very, very young and very new to the LCK.
Really tricky to really talk about too much. We aren't to know, and unfortunately Jin Air haven't had too many good data points outside of Grace's pop-off on the Zoe. He's on Zoe this time, but game around him has fallen apart. Top lane 60 CS ahead, mid lane 30 CS ahead. Everywhere there's a lead.
Well, Hook's going to land onto Dread, and of course it's not going to be followed. Nova's, he had one of those thoughts where I'll hook this brush, and then he landed the hook and was very sad.
Well, that's the happy thing about Threshold. It's non-committal, so...
True, but I mean, normally if you land it, you're very happy about landing it, and you're like, now I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna start
Point to me who you go in on.
That's what I'm
Afreeca
saying.
Freecs.
That's what I'm saying. But any Thresh that can't follow his hook, you know, feels like a Lee Sin that lands his Q, it can't go in.
Confirmation of skill order I was talking about. This is the Ning skill order. Q full on max rather than just 3 points. W second, so reversal of the Q and W.
Yep. I believe when Kane first came out, everyone was Blade's Reach was the best one.
Baron is going to be quick. They have the flag here. It's got 5 points in it. When will Jin Air realize this is a possibility?
Well, they're going to realize now. What are they going to do about it? The answer is nothing, Papa. Teleport going to come down. We are going to see the Baron falling as Spirit uses his regular engage. Hook's not going to land as here's the dive. Triple kill already for the Kane. Can he pick up more as aiming dives on over? Says no, but that's going to be the triple, and Grace dies. In the end, it's just going to be a 3 of a kind, but it's a 3 of a kind for the newly imported Kane to the LCK.
It's a third team wipe in a row as well, Atlas. That's 3 too many for the side of Jin Air.
And he's legendary in his first game of the LCK. You can imagine all the other teams wondering why the heck we haven't started playing him sooner. Just wanted to make sure he was perfected. Red certainly making it look good this game. But the context is a pretty muddy one as far as whether or not it was the Kane or whether it was Jin Air making a huge error.
Too slow on the Baron. Taken basically off spawn. Really quick Baron because of the attack speed on the flag buff in this patch. And then, yeah, AoE wombo death happens because everyone has an item lead against item disparities. Grace tries to do something, but nothing to be done.
Yep. Doing something is not something that Jin Air have been allowed to do since that first ace, and that first catastrophic error that sent this game into turmoil. 22 minutes in, and it's a 15,000 gold lead, probably the biggest at this stage of the game that we have ever seen. Even game 2 of our previous series, which feels like a long time ago now. But Damwon utterly destroying Sandbox in that.
Kind of reminds you of the Dream game, right? The game for SK Telecom T1 in the Kesper Cup where they got down all turret plates. That would have been a bigger gold lead.
Yeah, it's just, that being said, like, that game felt like it was all just SKT being better, whereas this is the worst kind of smashing a game.
Definitely hard to index too much on one side or the other, but feels like Jin Air compounded their own mistakes.
Yeah. Being the illustrators of your own demise is just... It's hard to watch, guys. But the Afreeca Freecs have made the Jarvan work twice in a row. The Kane did look good. So certainly some positives to take on the side of the Afreeca Freecs, and watching them play, they do just look like they're a team having fun. They weren't having fun at the beginning.
They look better with a duo lane and an 80 carry, and thus aiming, kind of squaring up the roster. It's kind of hard to say square because it is support Jarvan, but clearly Spirit trying to make it a thing, and where it's good, it is really good. Obviously, when you can EQR in and Kai'Sa can follow, it can be very powerful.
As far as muscle memory, he's got a lot of it. As he dives on forward, Root immediately has to flash, and that's going to leave his support to die. Frozen Tomb comes in. Root's trying to dance around this one. We'll be able to get some sticks back through, and Yukal does have to be the sacrificial lamb. They lose Linderung on the back end. They've broken open the base, and the Afreeca Freecs have sent everyone to the fountain.
Can they end the game here? They're looking for the push.
Well, Dread has to be very, very careful as there's the dive forward, aiming. Flash Voidseeker picks up the kill on the Zoe, and Keen booped back under the fountain. He's going to be taken out. Nexus turrets, the next one to go. It's a double kill for aiming those. He's just on cleanup duty. Able to do so, and it's a 24-minute game 2. That's going to buck the trend of our idea about Jin Air and the length of their games. As, my God, 2-in-a-row victories for the support Jarvan. And Kane starts his LCK career off with a bang.
26 kills in less than 24 minutes of gameplay. Jin-Air, unfortunately, just had that nosedive that the gold graph will also illustrate in the early game. After a really nice early plan to try to deal with the Kane, Kane kind of had the game gifted to him in his lap. That was a TV dinner for the Kane. He forgot to show up, he didn't do any cooking, and yet got an entire meal. Freecs, they will bow. But what will this victory mean later in the week when they will undoubtedly have more competition than they were leveled, especially in game number 2 against Jin-Air?
And what is the roster going to be? Are we going to continue mixing it up? Is Proud going to be back? I mean, Dread has been fantastic in almost all of the games, even on the Camille games. Was looking good. Just want to mention, I almost saw mouths when Keen walked past and shook hands with Grace. Almost looked like he said sorry in Korean. But my Korean lip reading is not quite up there just yet, so that was just an idea. Oh, man. I love Uv. Big smile on his face, but you look in the Jin-Air camp and it's the opposite story. That was a shellacking of all shellackings in game number 2. After what was a slugfest in game 1 and a game that Jin-Air, I mean, now they should be going back to the coach's booth to discuss game 3 after what happened in game number 1. That Baron steal, from there it feels like the mentality fell off a cliff.
And you do posit, surely this feels worse than the Griffin series. And that was with Griffin just pummeling them. That was just a domination, right? It looked like men versus boys in that game. At least then you can look at the enemy team and be like, well, we couldn't beat them. You know, we tried, but they're better than us. This just feels so much different, right? Because game 1 was very winnable, and then it's kind of clawed away from you in game number 1. The very unlikely steal away after the smite was just too early. Coming in from Malrung. And then game number 2, and then you roll over, right? It's just so yucky to think about for the mentality there. I would hate to be a fly on the wall in the Jin-Air booth because there'll be such a range of emotion trying to deal with what is a tough 2-0 loss for them. Afreeca Freecs, look, they 2-0. There's no asterisk to that. They do win. But I want to watch how can they actually pay this forward, because this is just, well, we styled a bit and it worked against Jin-Air, or is it we've got a different way of looking at things that can work against a multitude of tiers of opposition?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so far we've seen the Jarvan support twice in a row, so obviously it wasn't just one of Spirit's crazy picks that he's decided to go for, and like you mentioned, you know, has been something that's been going around solo queue just recently. But to be perfectly honest, it still feels like nothing has been settled on the side of the Afreeca Freecs. It still feels like there is turmoil over there, and yes, they look happy, they look excited and things like this, but they don't look like a team that's about to knock Griffin off their pedestal. They're not someone that's going to surprise SKT or Sam.
Well, the weird one to me is, you know, when the Awesome Dude meta hit and we had Mage's bot lane, you understood why. And you understood why things were changing a bit, and they played non-standard, but no one was like, well, if it's standard, what are they going to do? Like, some people thought about what if patches came in to necessitate it. This feels a lot more unprovoked, right? Because aiming's in the lineup, so clearly they're happy to play with them. There's no shenanigans there, and they've not said anything to the difference. So they have 2 supports on the roster, and Spirit is playing off meta stuff next to him. It just doesn't feel at the next level that it did in Summer Split, right? And that's where we still need to be convinced. It's still kind of weird to think about. This is where the game was very quickly put into unfortunate territory, skirmishing against a Kane. A new thing for LCK teams. It is the first professional game and first professional win in the LCK on Kane.
Definitely not the last after other junglers see how much fun Dread had in this game. Of course, our next one may not necessarily have an experience like this, but being legendary at 20 minutes in and only having 1 death to your whole team's name certainly shows better things than what you'd otherwise expect.
KT have a really interesting week. They play Genji tomorrow. Genji off a win, but obviously not in a lot of form. And they play Afreeca. And Afreeca KT, what is it going to look like? I feel like we can't know till we watch KT tomorrow and see what roster they run and how they're playing, given they've had their own struggles. So weird how those 2 matches back-to-back are so up in the air, because did we learn something other than Dread plays a pretty good Kane from this entire series?
I mean, Spirit plays Jarvan support. is another thing. And he rushes his Zhonya's. We learned that. We learned that the Afreeca Freecs always look like they're having a good time, and maybe that can help up against KT. And I find it so interesting that not 12 months ago, Afreeca Freecs versus KT was a battle for second place, with Kingzone being our #1 team ready to take on the world. And now looking forward to that series, which is going to be Afreeca Freecs' next one. It's more of a battle of, can the Afreeca Freecs' crazy stuff take down a floundering KT for a battle for 5th to 7th place here in the LCK, with all the young guns doing so much work.
The hype result for that matchup to be pivotal is KT beating Gen G with some air of, confidence.
Yes, tomorrow.
And then with us actually learning something that separates Afreeca and KT, because honestly, regardless of this result, they're in that same kind of spot in my mind right now. I can't really split them, even though they're totally doing different stuff. I can't split them. And I want there to be a decisive winner, so we see, is there a late candidacy for one of these two teams? Because that will be the glass half full situation. As congratulations on the late introduction to Kane. Dread picks up his first LCK MVP, and for a player that's very aggressive, that fits the meta, certainly not his last.
Yeah, 10-0-4 is a phenomenal scoreline, and just showed exactly what Kane can do if he gets into the middle of a fight, jumping on the right targets, and being able to be so incredibly frustrating. The health that he gets back in Rast form with that Umbral Trespass. Oh man, made it look all too easy, but I don't think it was really the storyline of this game.
Yeah, no accountability in the late game for Kane or anyone, because Jin Air had folded a couple of times in a row as a team, and there wasn't too much to go there, so we cut the highlights short. I think that is a nice thing to do, and now we only have those final orders of business. We're going to have the MVP interview. Look at the schedule, and guys, before we show that schedule graphic, it is Griffin versus SKT. First match tomorrow, a match that looked so mouth-watering after the first week, and now some people are thinking true separation between the two teams. I understand both perspectives, but it really does fit into new blood versus the established teams, and whatever the result, we'll learn something from Griffin versus SKT.
Exactly right, but to bring it back to this particular series, let's throw it over to Jisun for some interview translation.
Thank you very much, guys. This is the time to wrap up today's series, and we're going to be joined by Amy and Dread from Afreeca Freecs.
제가 오랜만에 경기를 나와서
It has been a while since I played in a pro stage, and it feels really nice. Talking about being on the stage for a while, how have you been?
노력하면서
I was practicing hard.
연습했던 것 같아요.
Yeah, that's it. What about you, Dread? How do you feel right now? I'm really happy to pick up this first MVP point. Kane. Tell us about your Kane.
Kane도 많이 연습했었거든요.
I practiced Kane a lot.
좋은 성과를 냈던 것 같아요.
I'm really happy that I got this awesome results. Aiming. The highlight was the Baron still on your Azrael. Wasn't calculated.
처음에는 이제 감으로 이 정도면 되겠지 하면서 날렸던 것 같아요.
Well, I just had some good feelings.
기분이 좋네요.
I was really happy that I actually pulled that off.
정말 인상적이었어요. 네, 이즈리얼 하시면서 평소에 많이 이즈리얼에 자신감이 있으신 편이에요?
Do you have some extra confidence on playing Ezreal? Yes, I do. I played a lot on solo queues and I practiced a lot, so that's how I pulled up such a great performance today on the competitive games.
오늘은 어떠셨나요?
그 승률과 반대대로
Well, I mean, it is true that Ezreal has a low win rate, but I feel really happy because even though the win rates were really bad, I pulled a really great performance today.
아직 정글러 맞잖아요.
Dread, and you are same jungler with Spirit, so Spirit's support J4 was really awesome. Tell us more about it. We had a lot of problem in terms of macro and rotation, so we were thinking about putting Spirit as a support. Why J4 though? Well, that's the decision from our coaching staff. And let's talk about Kane. The first LCK Kane pick came from you, Dread.
제가 최근에 솔랭으로 좀 많이 해보고
I played it a lot during the solo queues, and I watched LPLs a lot. And it looked really strong, so I tried to use it during the scrims and I had good results.
정말요?
네.
네, 이번 9점이 패치해서
Then in the current
케인이라는
patch,
챔프에 대해서 어떻게 생각하시는지
how do you rate
궁금해요.
Kane right now?
전 진짜 좋다고 생각해요.
I think it's really good.
네, 그럼 드레드 선수의 케인 앞으로도 만나볼
And
수
we'll be
있을
looking
것
forward to
같습니다.
seeing
자, 아프리카
more of your
프릭스
Kane.
이제 2승입니다.
Freeca Freecs,
더
you
올라갈
guys
수 있는
stacked
힘이
up 2
얻었다고
victories
생각을
now.
하는데 다음 경기에 대한 각오 부탁드릴게요.
Is there any last message regarding your coming series?
다음에도 좋은 모습으로 계속 이기고 싶네요.
I want to keep this good performance going
네,
and
에이밍
practice
선수의
hard.
각오였고요. 드레드 선수님요?
What about you, Dread?
저도 다윤 형이랑 같이 좋은 성과 내도록 해보겠습니다.
I will
네,
keep
앞으로도
picking
계속
up this
같이
great
출전하실
result with
생각이신가요?
spirit. Are you thinking of playing with him together from now on?
비밀로
Well, it's a
알겠습니다.
secret though.
자, 에이밍 선수, 드레드 선수와 함께했습니다. 저희
Can I add something
네,
more?
알겠습니다.
제가 예전에 있었던 일로
There was this
채팅으로 인해서
bad incidents being
상처 입으신
me being so
분들께
toxic when I was an
죄송하고
amateur player.
저는
I just wanna make a really
한다고
apologize for
사람들이
everyone.
하는데 저는 지금까지 단
I
한
have
번도
never ever been
들어가
to
본 적도 해본
such a
적도
bad
없는 것 같아요.
actually website. I was just
믿어주시는 분들
so unaware of the
감사하고
attitude that I was making, so I feel really sorry about it, and I would really
에이밍
appreciate for the
선수의
fans
진솔한 말씀
taking
잘
my apology.
들었습니다.
Thank you.
오늘 MVP 정말 축하드리고요. 다음 경기도 힘내시길 바랍니다.
Congratulations
인터뷰
on your
감사합니다.
victories and MVPs, and we'll be looking forward to
네,
seeing
저희는
you performing
내일
next time.
찾아올게요. 안녕.
We will be back next time.
안녕.
Bye.
Thank you very much, G-Sun. And a heartfelt apology there for aiming. I wonder whether that maybe played a part as to why he was sitting on the bench. But Afreeca Freecs still as enigmatic as ever as far as what their plans are for the future. Whether or not Spirit is going to be sticking in that bottom lane.
Why wasn't aiming
We don't
playing
know.
last week? We still don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Not a question they were sent there, and maybe not a question they want to answer. They've got a lot, as you say, a lot of aces up their sleeves. As far as they're aware, they definitely look at the game differently as Spirit is coming in and showing us the new stuff. Who knows? Maybe we'll be made to eat our words and we'll have this AP support Jarvan meta that seemed, you know, far-flung. Feel that there is still definitely some ways to play against it that Jin Air weren't able to exploit. But all we can do is look at the standings and see that Jin Air, you know, now it really feels like they are marooned on the bottom of the table. They've played 5 matches. They have won only a single game in those 5 matches. Meanwhile, Afreeca Freecs, they've got 2 match victories, and while they've only beaten Gen.G and Jin Air Greenwings, their next assignment as it stands is 8th place KT Rolst.
Exactly. KT and Gen.G will be fighting for potentially that 7th place that Afreeca Freecs occupy. Depends on how these games are won and things like that as to whether things are going to be relatively tied. But the first series tomorrow is going to be a huge one. Griffin versus SKT. And then, of course, on Saturday, Griffin are going to be taking on Sandbox, one after the other, third into second. And if SKT can knock Griffin off the hype train, then potentially Sandbox will have a better chance up against them as well. It's a very, very exciting couple of days of LCK to discover what our top side actually looks like when you look at the standings.
And also how much of the Griffin runaway hype, because they deserve the hype, but the runaway hype, if it's not this week, do they lose in the first round robin? You'd probably say no, right? They would have played so many of the potential contenders that take them down. We've been trying to find the team that can make Griffin bleed. It got close, Unwell Life had a chance, but SKT, they're probably the best